G'day and welcome to the Hunting Connection podcast. My name is Zach Williams and I am your host. Here we'll connect you with hunters, fishers and outdoor enthusiasts from around the globe. This podcast will share hunting and fishing stories including past experiences and tackle the tough hunting stereotypes our community faces. We hope to be a positive influence to those outside the community while also having a laugh along the way. Hope you enjoy the podcast. G'day and welcome to another episode of Hunting Connection podcast. Today's guest is Daniel from Eureka Tactical, and he's also a final year biologist student. Welcome, Daniel.
Good evening, Zach.
How you doing, mate?
I'm good and cold. How are you?
Good and cold. Yeah, about the same here too. At least you're a little bit warmer up in the higher parts of Australia there.
Yeah. Always lucky to be in Queensland.
Yeah, I reckon you would struggle down here in SA and would both struggle.
Yeah, 100%. Yep.
So, on that, where are you from, man?
Yeah, so I live a little bit north of Brisbane, so in southeastern Queensland. Lived in this area my entire life. And, that's exactly where I'm from. And
beautiful.
I guess where I'll be staying for a while.
Oh, it's a beautiful part of the country, that's for sure. And there's a reason there's a decent population of hunters in that area. There's the Hunters Campfire podcast guys. They're up in that area. And then also Becoming a Bow Hunter podcast. He's up there as well. So seems to be a lot of hunters in that Brisbane region. How old are you, man?
I am close to 28.
28, nice.
In a couple months or a month or so.
So you don't really work. What do you study?
Yeah, all right then. So I'm studying a Bachelor's of Science, and my major is biology, and that covers all factors of biology. So right down on the micro scale, like bacteria, viruses, and whatnot, up to the sort of large scale, like animals and the populations. And I've got two minors, which one's wildlife ecology, the other's environmental science. So altogether, that kind of adds up to a very sort of wildlife and outdoors-based degree, essentially.
So what led you to study biology?
Yeah, quite a bit sort of happened in my early 20s of sort of working and already being satisfied with what I'm doing, because I had no intentions of going to university when I finished school. Literally zero intentions of going to university. And I was just working full time, working at a gun shop actually for quite a while. Then I started to quit that, working security and as a firearm instructor for a while. So all this time I've got interactions with different shooters and different hunters and whatnot, and having conversations with hunters and shooters. And I've just sort of been looking at sort of our impact on the environment and what we're doing. And I'm like, well, I want to know more. And I want to make sure that what we're doing is the right thing. And so I started my degree. Pretty much confirmed what I already believed, that removing invasive species does help the environment, and that, hunters are one of the best sort of tools for conservation. And that's something I'm really big on. And that's sort of, there's a whole lot of backstory there, because, it's not very common to start uni at 24, but, that's what I did.
No, that's
good. That's good. The rundown.
I'm sure that many of your fellow students would not have joined biology coming from a similar background, so you'd be quite unique in that aspect. I would imagine anyway.
Yeah, you are correct. I have met one person who's sort of from a hunting background, and that's because he grew up on a farm. So he came from a pagan background, and but no one else that I've talked to so far has a hunting background.
Yeah, I did tried. I'm not a great studier. I enrolled in TAFE probably late teens after school, doing conservation land management, and it was a total disaster because I'm crap at studying, but plus like I always wanted to be a park ranger growing up. That was my dream job. And then going there and meeting all the people that have enrolled to do this were just on totally different sides of the conversation. And like the instructors were all different, and I just did not gel well.
No, I can imagine. Hey, and especially in your late teens and stuff, you kind of that stuff kind of gets to you, right?
Yeah.
Whereas now it sounds like, oh, you go hunting. I'm like, yeah,
exactly.
It's like, oh, I'm like, okay, like I literally do not care about your opinion.
Yeah,
so, and I'm like very content with myself. I'm proud of doing that.
Yeah, I also found that park ranger, you're not actually outside doing hands-on, getting your hands dirty like 80% of the time. You're like 80% to 90% in an office. So
maybe the South Australian ones. Every park ranger I've talked to up here are like, they're outside.
There's a lot of pencil pushers down here.
Yeah, I can imagine, eh?
So, how did you get into hunting?
Basically from a farming background. So my extended family are farmers, and my dad sort of took me there when I was sort of younger. I don't know what age exactly, but sort of went there, and they're like, "You want to go shooting?" I was like, "Yes." Like,
what
yes.
Kid doesn't?
It's like, yeah. It's like, bro, I'm 15. Of course I want to shoot something. I'm definitely safe to, hold a gun. And from whatever age it was, I was like, yeah, I want to do this. This is cool. And on another side of my family, they were all shooters up sort of north-ish Queensland. And so I'd visit them and we'd go shooting there. And I was like, this is cool. I like doing this. And so, yeah, from there, we'll go shooting. And then one of my first jobs outside of school was at a gun shop when I was 17. And the owners of that gun shop have 2 5,000-acre properties. So every long weekend, because I was well liked, they'd be like, we're going shooting. Like, we're going out to this property and we're going shooting, we're going hunting at a very discounted rate. And that was fantastic. And yeah, I've just been loving it since then.
So how long did you work at the gun shop for?
I worked there for 3 years.
Nice.
3 pretty intense years. Not to like toot my own horn or anything, but I was probably one of the most like well-liked people there in terms of like the management and customers.
That's good.
And so that's sort of one of the reasons why every long weekend over those 3 years, we would pack up on a Saturday afternoon and go shooting on Saturday night and come back sort of Monday afternoon and open up the shop on a Tuesday.
Yeah, it's hard to gel with some of the guys that work at firearm shops down here.
Okay. Why is that?
Oh, just some of them seem a bit know-it-all-ish and...
Right. I know exactly the type you're talking about, yeah.
Unless they know who you are, like they just, serve you as quick as possible. Yeah, and that's
not a very nice attitude to deal with, hey?
Nah, not at all. Not at all. So, yeah it's
sure.
You know what the shooting community's like.
I do.
So we met through working through Firearms Owners United. I'm a South Australian rep, and you're Queensland rep. Are you a Queensland rep? Yep.
I was brought on as a Queensland rep, and then last year they voted me onto the board of directors.
Awesome.
And I've been doing that as well.
So I'll do this in a further podcast with the president or the founder, whatever you want to call him. How would you best describe what Firearms Owners United do?
That's a really good question, and I think it's one that over the years has changed because I've been following them since they started, and because they started with a really large issue with the Adler ban. The Adler shotgun is a lever action shotgun, which was perfectly fine and legal until the company that brought them in did a video showing how fast it shoots, and none of the federal or state governments liked that and quickly wanted to fully ban lever action shotguns or heavily restrict them. So Firearm Owners United, stepped up and really tried to mitigate any sort of bans. And then they put some money in to fight for a gun called like the Wedgetail, an AR lookalike firearm to stop that getting banned, and did really well. And since then, there haven't really been any large issues. So since bringing me on, we've been trying to go after some issues which are very palatable by the public and seemingly low level but winnable causes. So at the moment, just trying to get firearm instructors to be eligible to import semi-auto firearms, which is a pretty big deal. It doesn't seem like a large issue, but it is. So yeah, at the moment, we're very much trying to just correct some very illogical laws, I would say, is what we're doing.
That's a great way to definitely put it. So people that I'm not sure how long the current campaign's going for that firearms instructor one, but surely people can contact the Firearms Owners United and get a hold of the information of who to email. You've got some templates.
Yeah, for sure. And basically, so what I'm doing, and I guess why they very much wanted me on the board, is every few months we're going after another issue where the board members and the reps will do some research into the laws. We will find very specific laws, which again are just illogical. I mean, as a whole, you can say all our gun laws are illogical, and that's a whole nother conversation. However, there is a lot of firearm laws which should be changed and won't receive backlash.
Yeah,
and that will better the community as a whole.
100%.
And so what we're trying to do is every few months just highlight these. We put out a month's worth of information as to why this is a bad law, why it's being changed, and then we put up a template for you to just like copy and paste into your Word, like Microsoft Word, fill out your own name, and then send it to your local member of parliament. And
yeah, as shooters,
it's good.
Shooters, hunters, and alike, we need to get behind these campaigns more. The shooting community in general tend to be pretty laxed when it comes to certain things. They're the first to complain if something's taken away, but it's hard to get everyone on board to help keep something or change something for the better. And Firearms Owners United are doing a great job of that. You're doing lots of amazing work behind the scenes.
Yeah, we are. And it's a team effort.
It is a team effort. But you're...
Because I know nothing about South Australian gun laws. I know that they're slightly similar, but, when we bring up something about South Australia, I have no idea. But you do. So you're the one who's like, hey, this is the thing. So it's a team effort.
Yeah, like I said earlier, my studying skills aren't too great. I take a lot of my information on through podcasts and media as such, where reading technical fine print shit is not my specialty.
It's quite difficult. Like it's pretty hard, but it's the whole team that
Yeah.
does it. It's not just me. It's not just one person within Firemakers United.
No,
It's all of us kind of putting in an effort and being like, hey, this is an issue. And at the end of the day, we all just want better gun laws, regardless of what that looks like.
That we do. You know, Eureka Tactical has a couple of great shirts to do with that. The suppressor shush shirts.
Yeah, I love those.
Yeah, they're great.
So that's something that Eureka Tactical did for what I called Suppressor September, where last year, every single day of September, we put up like a new article or a new write-up of just like why we need suppressors. And it's very, very necessary.
Yeah, it's a crazy subject, that one. You know, you look at a lot of the European countries that hunt, you know, it's it's illegal not to own a suppressor. New Zealand, it's frowned upon if you go hunting without a suppressor. The States, they're pretty... Talking to my mates over there, you know, you still have to apply for permits and stuff over there for suppressors, where New Zealand, you can just go down to the local gun shop and get one off the shelf, you know. And then over here, it's the people that can get them. It's still a very difficult process, and not many people, from my understanding anyway, can get them.
Yeah, it's a very, very specific group of people in New South Wales who can get them.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
What do you think? What's your opinions on the benefits of suppressor use over here?
That, man, I could talk about that for a long time. Like, so I found a new thing to post about every single day in September last year. But the main thing is to do with people's hearing. As you know, like, I'm pretty big on sort of just like health in WHS, and you know, your long-term health from hearing loss is like atrocious. And it's not just because like, oh, it sucks not to be able to hear, but like, what does that mean? So people with hearing loss have higher rates of depression, higher rates of suicide, and it's like, I like to be able to hear other people. I assume, you know, I'd like to be able to hear my grandchildren one day, right?
100%.
I think it would suck to not be able to hear him. And I have tinnitus, which flares up every now and then. I'm sure you probably do too. And it sucks, right? So long term, suppressors, they make everyone healthier, essentially.
Yeah, it's definitely a mitigation thing, you know, the long term.
Yeah, when we're talking about just like personal use, it's good for the people. But, you know, we have Medicare, right? Medicare deals with hearing. So it's better for the public in general to, like, it's cheaper.
Yeah,
because there's less money going to caring for people who have lost their hearing due to gunshots, because, like, they have suppressors.
Yeah, and like hunting with hearing protection, it's not a common thing. Like, you know, I know there's new stuff these days where I've spoken about it before, like where you got the headphones that block out the sound of the gunshot and you can still hear stuff around. But, you know, if you're wearing earmuffs or earplugs, like, earplugs are horrible to stick in your ears, and 9 times out of 10 you're probably not wearing them properly anyway. But, you know, you need that sound aspect while you're actually out hunting. And then if you're going for you know, my main hunting rifle these days is the 300 Win Mag, and I've got the muzzle brake on it, you know. She can get loud.
100%. I use those earmuffs, the electronic earmuffs with microphones in them, and they're good, except I also wear glasses, right? So there's a little air gap, or not, you know, right where my glasses sit, which kind of defeats the purpose of earmuffs in the first place, right? So, like, it's a no-win situation.
Do you happen to know the brand of what hearing protection you're using?
Yeah, I think they're called. I think the brand is Peltor. Not Peltor. Heighton Late. I think most people would have seen them
Yeah,
over the course of their shooting career.
yeah. I've
It's like
seen posts of some. It's something I really need to invest in. I know this past rut after shooting a couple of deer, I'm sitting there afterwards. I'm like, ooh, my ears are ringing,
and you get that tremendous headache as well.
Yeah, I haven't.
I always do.
I'm not that bad yet, but yeah, just after morning hunting or target shooting, you go home. Target shooting, I wear earmuffs, but you still go home and you've got that slight ringing when you're laying in bed.
Yeah, it's atrocious.
So, when you're out hunting, what type of gear are you taking with you, and what style of hunting are you actually doing?
So primarily, farm hunts and pigs, and I guess with hunting pigs as well is rabbits, because that's like they just pop up and you're like, sweet, just shoot one whilst you're here, kind of deal. So spotlighting pigs. I don't use dogs. I've never gotten into dogs, just don't like it. So it's rifles and shotguns and a car, essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess it just depends, because I've gone on hunting New South Wales on a quad bike, where that's a completely different setup than like going in the car, and some farm hunts you got to walk on. So it's kind of just like depends on what the situation calls for. But yeah, mostly rifles and shotguns, I would say, and the appropriate caliber.
What calibers are you running?
308 if I'm shooting pigs, or just anything but birdshot in my 12 gauge.
What do you prefer?
Mostly solids.
Mostly solids, yeah.
Yeah, I've only just started using my shotgun for hunting pigs, like in the past couple of years. I've always been against it, and then I went out with my dad, and I had my 308. He had my shotgun, and yeah, he got quite a few pigs, and I was just like, damn, like the shotgun's actually not terrible, hey.
Yeah, I've been wanting to use
308 with my scope, and they're like 20 meters away. I'm like, especially with my glasses, I'm like, all right, like I got to line up the scope exactly. They're already gone. It's just like boom, boom. I'm like, sweet, all right. I'm using the shotgun next time.
I've been wanting to get some solids for my 12 gauge and try and get a deer with the under and over. I reckon just to say I've done it,
Now that you say that, I've actually been wanting to do that for quite a few years. I have no reason why, and I definitely don't think I have the opportunity or ability to do so. But I want a deer with solids.
I reckon we can arrange that when you come down.
Probably, yeah.
So what
we do a little bit of pest mitigation as well, with permits of kangaroos, and farmers always have a problem with pigeons, and the shotgun is great for pigeons. And
so
with like the proper permits and whatnot.
Yeah. What style shotgun are you running? Are you running a under and over, lever action, straight pull?
So I have a under and over, a 30-inch, and that's because I used to shoot competition clays, and it's just like a holdover from that. And I've been thinking that a short side by side would be great, but it's not necessary for me at the moment. I'm doing fine with the 30-inch shotgun anyway.
Yeah, nice.
So,
yeah, I quite enjoy the 12 gauge. I need to put some more time in it. What is it, Lenora? I just got a cheap secondhand one from the gun shop, and she does the job. I've shot some rabbits and that with it. Like I said, I want to change the chokes up and get it suitable for shooting solids. So.
Yeah, they're so versatile, hey, and cheap ones are great. I mean, it's really hard to mess up an under and over shotgun or even a side by side shotgun. Like, it's a bit of metal, a bit of wood.
Exactly.
It's, cheap ones, expensive ones. It does, unless you're shooting competition. Cheap ones are fine, and there's nothing wrong with it, eh?
Yeah, exactly. What brand is your shotgun?
It is an ATA, so it's a cheap shotgun. It's
they're a nice
like a knockoff Beretta.
Yeah, they're nice looking. I've got a few mates. I looked at them while I was looking at secondhand shotguns to get. What about your rifle? What rifle brand are you running?
So for my 308, that's a Weatherby Vanguard. So made in Japan, shoots well, shoots exactly how I need it to shoot, really. I do use my 223. I was about to say a fair bit, but I don't really use it a fair bit anymore because the 308 does everything I need it to do. And that's a Tikka, and that nice. I love. I reckon that's probably my favorite rifle, and I luckily have, like, the wood on it is perfect. I mean, it looks like it should be for a more expensive rifle. It's so nice.
So you're a wood guy when it comes to stocks on rifles, or?
In theory, yes, because they look nice. It's my only wooden rifle though, and the reason I got it is literally because, like, it just popped up, right? I was like, and I was working at the gun shop. I said, I'm taking that. Like, I am taking that. That is just so nice. It's a beautiful piece of timber. Sometimes I wish it wasn't, because I'd feel less bad. But
that's what I like about the synthetics a bit more. You can rough them up a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure. All my other, well, my 22s would, but I don't know, doesn't matter. My 308 synthetic, my 300 blackout is synthetic, and yeah, I prefer that.
Yeah. So when you're walking through the farms that you're hunting on, what's in your pack?
Yeah, so I knew this was coming up because you love gear, and it really changes. So in my pack, it changes because a lot of the hunts I'm on, I'm back at at least some sort of structure each night, right? Yeah. Or at least by my car, and I've got a ute which has everything. So I'm really taking the minimal amount of stuff that I can. So it would be water and a bit more water, my knife, ammo, because I know you haven't hunted or you haven't seen pigs in Australia.
Not yet,
but
no.
Sometimes when you hunt pigs, you don't just come across like one or two. Sometimes you can, especially like way out west, you can come across hundreds. Like, I'm not exaggerating. There have been times when we've gone out west and you look out to the field and it looks like the field is moving because it's just pigs.
Now, I know you won't like me saying this, but that's what dreams are made of for me. When I got into
not for the farmer.
Not for the farmer, but when I got into bow hunting, like my bucket list species in Australia was a pig. And I still have not got that yet.
Like,
I've done a few trips chasing them, haven't seen a live one. Come across dead ones.
I can almost guarantee you a pig. I will be annoyed because it's like a 6-hour drive, but I could guarantee you a pig almost.
You'll say that, and we'll be there for a weekend, and we won't see a single one. I've just got that bad.
Yeah, probably. So yeah, you can come across just hundreds at a time, and yeah, sometimes you come across zero. So I make sure to bring plenty of ammo.
How many rounds are you taking with you? If you just say you're going out for a day.
If I'm walking, I'll have Weatherby holds, I think 4 in the magazine, so 4, 5 on the rifle because I've got like a sleeve thing for it, and then maybe 2 packs of 20 in my bag.
Yeah, nice.
And there have been times where I've shot all of them out, which, like, look, I'm not saying that I got 40 kills saying that I have shot all of them though.
Someone gets a bit trigger happy.
Hey man, look, I need glasses for a reason, right?
It happens to the best of us, man.
Yeah, and I'll bring food as well. When I was sort of younger, we were doing like a lot of trail riding, like motorbike trail riding, and I got a tip from a dude who said, bring confectionery. So like your snakes and just like other lollies. And I was doing that for a while, but it kind of makes me sick now. Like, I think that's just like an age, like coming close to 30, I just get sick when I eat confectionery. So I try to just have like muesli or something, and chow that down.
I'm a sucker for a bag of lollies in the hunting pack. I used to do a fair bit of trail riding when I was younger with my stepdad, and would always, the first thing would take with us Mars bars and a Red Bull just to
it's great. Hey, it makes you feel good.
Yeah.
But after that feeling good ends, I'm like, oh man, I don't feel good. Hey, so I stopped doing that.
Yeah,
and now it's just like nice food.
You ask the guys I go out with. I've always got plenty of snacks in the backpack, whether it's some lollies, shapes, noodles, you name it.
Oh yeah,
beef jerky.
Oh, if we're doing a spotlight, bro, the back seat is just food, like snack food, because you'll be going for like 6 hours, right? Sometimes you go until the sun's up, and so you just bring in snack food. Definitely don't feel good the next day, but like you're in a coma the next day, so it doesn't matter.
I do that when I take with my 7-year-old out. So he'll be in the back seat with his pillows and his blankets and his games, and then I'll just have like a pack of donuts and chips and lollies and Coke and.
That's fantastic. Love it.
Make him as comfortable as.
Yeah, like it's horrible, but it's fantastic.
Nah, it's not horrible. That's how every kid should be brought up. Going out spotlighting with their parents.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Top 5 dream hunts. I know it's a difficult question for you because why you're in hunting.
I wouldn't. So this is a good question, and I think it's best explained by what you just said. By explaining what you just alluded to. The reason I hunt mostly is for agricultural purposes and conservation, right? So you love it when there's heaps of game on a property, but to me, I'm like, that's costing so much money. Like if you fly over wheat fields or grain fields or whatever, you can see like forward drive tracks, like what it looks like forward drive tracks, but it's just pigs because they just run through and just eat. Or like foxes jack, little calves. Pigs kill calves as well. Lamb, they kill lambs or whatever. So when I'm on a farm, I'm like I'm hunting because I want to help out the farmer. I want him to make more money, or rather lose less money. And then also there's other hunts where I'm like, I like the environment. I want to remove this animal and help out the environment. So given that, I don't really have like a dream hunt. I think it'd be fantastic to go to the US and do a big backpack hunt. Something you do backpack hunts and whatnot, but as a Queenslander, it almost seems like it doesn't exist here. Like a proper walking hunt.
I reckon you could do it up in the Cape. You get access up there. You could definitely do it. I know some guys go do canoe trips up there and they hunt pigs and that out of...
Yeah, good point. I should say southeast Queensland because Queensland is so big. Like Queensland's so big. But yeah, as a southeast Queenslander, it's kind of hard to imagine being in an area where I can walk for so long that I'm not near even a track, or I'm not like an hour drive away from the homestead. So it would be pretty cool to go to Alaska and hunt a caribou. My dad's actually alluding to doing that this year or next year. for the past 3 years of me doing my degree. He's like, so when do you finish your degree? And also, what do you think about hunting caribou in Alaska? And I'm like, are these things connected? Like, why are you asking me this?
He's like, I'll celebrate you finishing your degree by me shooting a caribou in Alaska while you're studying.
Yeah, right.
While you're in your
like send me a selfie of shooting a caribou or something.
While you're
like, oh yeah, thanks, Dad.
While you're in your final exams, you just get a selfie of him with a giant ball.
And that would be because it's a pretty great test of my skills, of my fitness, of my tracking ability. But otherwise, in terms of realistic hunts, I don't have one. I just want to get out more. Yeah. Which I will again when I finish my degree.
So for you, it's not so much the animal that you're chasing, it's the experiences that you're having while you're out, rather than species specific.
Yeah, and when I've done the camp hunts, that's exemplified so much when like with friends or with a few family members and you're like proper camping. It's definitely more the experience of being with my friends and just doing some awesome stuff. But then otherwise, a lot of it for me is like, yeah, I'm helping the environment or helping a farmer, and that makes me feel good.
Yeah, 100%, man. I know I've alluded to this before, where I'm torn of being a hunter in Australia. You know, I had that post about it a month or so ago. You know, being torn between the conservation side of things, which I've always been big into. You know, all of my school projects that were free choice in primary school and high school were on introduced species. And then as I've gotten older, I've got more of a love for certain species. Deer, more so than, you know, pigs. I understand we've had these conversations before.
Yeah.
But, you know, deer will always hold a special place in my heart. I wouldn't be who I am today without them. So I do have this torn thing where it's like, you need to get rid of them for the conservation purposes, but I want them around for my selfishness and how much I love them.
And 100%, you know, I mean, so obviously most people don't know our deep and private conversations, but we have talked for hours about this issue.
I wouldn't say talked, more argued.
Well, you argue. I'm usually just chilling, watching Family Guy or something. You know, but there's all these things going on in Australia with these introduced species. And that full conversation will happen at a later date. But at the end of the day, like, they sort of are bad for the environment, but hunting is extremely fun. And, you know, going from like a target shooting perspective, right, to then actually shooting an animal. And I know that's not like a very nice way to say it, but that act of shooting an animal is quite difficult, unless it's like a cull, from a roo cull or something. But actually, like, because there's all these steps that lead up to pulling the trigger, like finding the tracks. Unless you talk to the farmer, and he's like, "Oh yeah, they're over there." In which case, it's pretty easy, and that's how it is for most Southeast Queensland hunts. But otherwise, you have to, you know, scan the property. You have to find some scat. You have to find some like footprints, and then you have to track it. And then you have to listen out and be like, hey, it sounds like they're over there. Let's go check that out. And then you're hiking. And then you do find it. And I haven't experienced this, and I'm not sure why. Maybe it's because I've done a lot of target shooting, or because I did it since I was young. A lot of people get an adrenaline dump when they're about to pull the trigger. Like buck fever kind of deal. There's another word for it, which escapes me. So there's all these steps leading up to pulling the trigger. And then when you pull the trigger and you kill an animal, it's like confirmation that you can shoot well. It's confirmation that you're a good tracker. It's confirmation of being like an outdoorsman, right? You're like, this is a really good feeling. And not to get too spiritual, like as a scientist, for some reason, I'm not supposed to be spiritual or whatever, but like you just feel connected to like hundreds of thousands of years of humanity of being like, oh shit, like I did this thing that people did 100,000 years ago.
I know, Pete, this is a podcast you're listening to and you're not watching, but this shirt here that I'm wearing from ET describes that feeling. It's the hunter-gatherer shirt. Shows from the early ape stage to a guy with a swinging a shotgun with a dog by his side, you know?
Yeah, and that's sort of the inspiration behind the shirt as well.
It's just
behind that design. So, but yeah, on that topic, it's like, yeah, if you got rid of all these animals, which you hunt, you wouldn't have that connection. You would have kangaroo hunts. I reckon that there'd be boom in native species, and the Australian governments would have to start doing kangaroo hunts, which are already available, but it'd be more.
Again, I've said this before, but you can't really hunt a kangaroo. You can only shoot them. They're not very smart when you're shooting. But when you're hunting,
you can make it difficult on yourself, though.
When you're hunting other things, they're the smartest thing around. A kangaroo,
100%, right?
A kangaroo will see you before any other game does and run. But if you're
everything else,
if you're on a kangaroo cull, they just stand there and look at you. You know,
they do. They do. So yeah, it's a very valid point to be torn between conservation and hunting. It's just like one of those sort of unfortunate realities we have to think about. Like, if all of a sudden there were no pigs, well, I'd be like, how much motivation would I have to go and work on the farms?
Yeah, exactly.
I know that makes it sound like I have a poor work ethic or whatever, but I mean, that's half my motivation to go out there is hunting pigs, because it's enjoyable to me and it does help them out. And then I do other stuff, with like helping out harvest or whatever. Because pig numbers generally rise just before harvest, because like the reason you're harvesting is because you have a lot of food.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's a lot of food for the pigs. So they sort of coincide. Yeah, I'd kind of feel a little bit sad, but I'd also feel very happy that now there's no more pigs. So it's like, it's a very valid thing to be sort of worried about.
Yeah, it's definitely different because, I know you're against a North American model of conservation over here for the introduced species.
Yeah.
Then there's a guy in Tassie, Shane. I want to get him on the podcast soon. He'll be an excellent guest. Where he wants like deer to be the new native type.
I just feel physical pain hearing that.
And that's why I brought it up.
I know that's why you brought it up.
To watch you squirm like a little schoolgirl,
A little schoolgirl that's just been fucking stabbed by its mate. Her mate, I guess.
But we are all in hunting for different reasons. We don't have the reasons that Americans do, or the African countries do, the European countries. We're pretty, apart from New Zealand, we're pretty unique over here.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing to remember with, say, like the North American model is they're introduced in invasive species for the most part have the same rules as us. So that's why you have all these videos of people shooting pigs out of helicopters with fully automatic guns is because they are a problem and they just go for it. There are some things like certain goats from like I think like some Iberian goat. I can't remember the exact
Ibex.
species.
One of
Ibex,
one of the ibex species in Arizona, I believe, or New Mexico.
I had the IB part right. I was like, they have decided that that's a tag system and whatnot, but by and large, they have no restrictions on their introduced and invasive species.
Yes, pig-wise and some other species-wise, but deer, you've got Sika deer in Maryland. They have a tag system. You've got Samba deer on an island, one of the islands off of one of the coasts there that have a tag system, lottery draw system. You have Scimitar Oryx. You've got Gemsbok. So all of these introduced species, they have.
All of those are adjacent to species that you already have there, though. But then other states, even on native coyotes, you can just shoot them, and it's like they're native. So so the US and Australia are different, and that's why we need different approaches.
100%.
And invasive and introduced species aren't just the huntable, like commonly hunted species. They're like the other things that you probably don't think about too often, or because you don't hunt it. So like the marine species. Actually, well, no, you would with those ones like carp and the other fish, but you got your crown of thorns starfish and whatnot in the Great Barrier Reef, which is invasive species. That they just need to get rid of. There's certain insects which they are trying to just wipe out and whatnot. So, when we're talking about introducing invasive species, it's not just the ones we hunt. There's also other things going on in Australia which are bad, and you got to have a conversation about those as well. When you come down to like the ecosystem and whatnot.
100% cane toads. You've got we've just had a species of crab put on high alert in South Australian waters. It's some Asian paddler crab, and it's very similar looking to one of our species we have down here, but I think it's poisonous if eaten, but it's very similar looking to one of the species we have. So we've been put on high alert for that for the last couple of years. There's constantly alerts put out by our fisheries down here. But then you've got weeds, you've got different snail species. I'm not sure if you guys have them, but the little mosquito fish, they're quite prevalent down here in most of our fresh waterways. But there's invasive species in general are just for the most part, I'm fine with wiping out majority of invasive species. Right. Except for my deer. Back the fuck off my deer.
Except the ones you like. And so that's why it's like, hang on. But again, that's something we can go in detail about another time, because
100%.
Like we have talked about this maybe at least 4 hours a month for the past however long we've been talking.
I love it because it puts depth in all my other conversations I have with other people, and then I use your arguments against them. So I do play devil's advocate, and I do play both sides, but I also admit it's a very emotional topic for me because the love I have for these certain species.
And I completely understand that. 100%.
So coming from a gun shop background, what would be your top beginner tip for someone getting into hunting, shooting?
Well, it's I think there's a few different levels for this. So if you're getting into shooting, just for the sake of shooting, right? Aside from doing like the safety course and all that, when you're talking about like what rifles, I would say always start with the 22. Even with handgun shooting, try and start with the 22. And the reason for that is the firearm itself, usually you can get for like $500, plus like a $200-300 scope, and you're under $1,000. And like, even let's say we even out at $1,000 because we've got like ammunition and whatnot. That's still quite a lot for a lot of people, but it's still low enough where if you don't like the sport, it's not a horrible waste of money. And so then 22 ammunition is generally cheap and it's low recoil. So you can go to the range, shoot quite a few rounds, and it hasn't cost you that much. You don't have a sore shoulder, and you can kind of get used to recoil and whatnot and the loud noises. Because something that happens with a lot of beginners, which I've seen just from like taking people shooting and from being a firearm instructor, is people anticipate the recoil. So if you start someone off with a 12K shotgun or with like a 308 or something, they're not going to come back to shooting. I mean, they might because it's super fun, but unless you really instruct them, like, because there's heaps of videos on YouTube with people just shooting and they get scope eye, they hurt the shoulder or whatnot. They're not going to have a great time.
They're enjoyable videos to watch, though.
Oh yeah, so good to watch.
Those
so good to watch.
You would know this one, but the bunch of I'm not sure what culture they are, but they're wearing the full Arabic robe, headgear stuff, and they're shooting the 500 or the 600 Nitro Express or whatever it is.
Yeah, and it's just like
the rifles are flying into the glass panels behind them and smashing glass.
It's fantastic.
And knocking turbines off and stuff. Oh, it's there. That's one of my favorite videos for sure.
It's pretty good, but it's what we want to avoid when someone first starts shooting. So when you start with the 22, there's low recoil and there's low noise, so you can kind of get used. You can get over the fear of pulling the trigger, and that's really important. In terms of like getting into shooting, I would say everyone says this and it's a cliche, but you have to find someone. It is so hard to get into shooting without finding someone, because it's just like, it's kind of nerve-wracking going to a range for the first time.
Yeah.
You know, you go to a range. I don't know if you've ever shot up here, but the most common range in Brisbane is the Belmont range, and it's massive. So first of all, it's a massive complex with heaps of different ranges in it. So just finding the right spot is hard. But then when you go to the SSAA range, it's full every single day. So there's maybe 50 people there already shooting. There's already gunshots going off. It's kind of nerve-wracking. So if you go with someone else, they have a bit of experience. They can sort of just walk you through it and help you out. Failing that, contact one of the organizations. It doesn't have to be Firearm Owners United, just any of the organizations, your local club, the national clubs. Just ask them, hey, like, is there, like, this is where I live. Is there a range here that's close by? Is there coaching? Is there something that can help out? I would say go to your local gun shop, but don't do that. They pay minimum wage. They don't, like, don't go to your local gun shop. And I mean, like, do go to your local gun shop and like buy stuff, but just remember, like, they're just people just working at a gun shop. Like, I'm not gonna ask the people to Big W, like, how to fix my Xbox. You know, like, it's like, but they're selling Xbox. They should know. It's like, well, yeah, but not everyone who works at the gun shop sort of knows every detail about every aspect of shooting. Whereas if you have someone who does have an idea of what you're already into and what you like, they can guide you a little bit better. And yeah, I have a lot of feelings about working at a gun shop and being asked, like, it's like, I live in Townsville. Where's a good range? Like, bro, I'm in Brisbane. Like, I haven't been to Townsville since I was 7. I don't know.
So I know this is a very state-specific question for you. And I know how much you love state-specific firearm law questions. What's the go with target shooting on private property in Queensland?
So this is that's a fantastic question, because the law gets misinterpreted quite often. You're not supposed to take someone who doesn't have a firearms license shooting on private property. So a person must only hold a firearm in Queensland if they have a firearms license, or if they are under direct supervision at a firearms range. And I guess if you told me you're going to ask me this question, I would have looked up the like the exact line on the legislation, because like I'm very into getting things right.
You're very anal, yes.
Yeah.
That's why I asked it as in like a specific question for Queensland, because we had this discussion the other day about firearms laws being misinterpreted state by state, different states, but someone told me this and I can do it in this state, so that's their go-to for...
Yeah. And when it comes to firearm laws, I mean, there's no guarantee that the cop who like pulls you up is going to charge you with anything, but they can. And I mean, the courts are always going to side with the cops versus the gun owner, right? Which is why Firearm Owner United exists and why they've taken things to court. But when I was doing firearm instruction work in Queensland, you have to take this course, which is like a proper course that's sort of like you get a certificate and whatnot, and it's under the training, like the federal training framework. Part of the course is a PowerPoint saying like, this is what you can do, this is what you can't do, and the information is dictated by the weapons licensing branch of Queensland Police. Like, there's like a minimum of what we have to tell you, so you can do the written test and pass the written test. But then, because there's time and because I feel like that's not enough, I'll do a little bit more than the minimum. And each of my slides, when I'm referring to something, would have like an exact legislation reference. So it's like, you are a fit and proper person if this, you're not a fit and proper person if this and this, storage requirements, etc. And every single session, I would have someone argue with me. Someone will be like, but I heard you can store your guns like this. I'm like, no, that's not the legislation. This is the exact legislation, and this is what it means. And they still argue. I'm like, bro, like, I don't know how I can be more specific. And a major one that comes up is like how much ammunition you can keep. So, and this is kind of what set me off originally of wanting to get things exactly right, because in the gun store and at the range, I'd hear people say all the time, you can only have 10,000 rounds per license holder. And then I hear other people say you can have 10,000 rounds per household. And then people are like, you can have 10,000. Like, where is this coming from? Who's saying this? So when I was a firearm instructor, I'd bring this up, and it's not even under the Weapons Act. It's the Department of Mines and Resources, because they deal with explosives. And it says if you have more than 10,000 rounds, aside from the other storage requirements, you need to have a dangerous goods 1.4S sticker on like where it's being kept. Like, that's it. You can have more than 10,000 rounds. And so, yeah, there's a lot of like myths about the law within this community that I have no idea where people, like, is someone making it up and spreading it with like confidence? Is it like a holdover? Is it, I don't know. So when I say something, I want to be very specific, and I usually want to reference something. But yeah, in Queensland, you cannot take someone shooting who doesn't have a firearms license on private property.
How do you feel about that? Because in South Australia, you can. As far as I'm aware, is what I'm going to put on that. just to not be certain, because I know how much you love that. From memory, they have to be in eyesight of you. Again, it's weird wording. Do you think you should be able to, if you have access to a property, do you think you should be able to take someone out without a firearms license and teach them so they get some understanding? In your
I'm on two
personal
minds
opinion?
about it because it's how I started, right?
Yeah.
Like my first shots were, and no one had any, like the people I was with didn't know what the law was. And
Yeah.
I mean, it was a long while ago, but I'm sure it's still the same law. It's how so many people get started. It's how so many people get started. Like I wouldn't know the exact numbers, but it's got to be like, it'd have to be most people. So like their first shots would have to be this way, right?
Yeah, 100%.
And if there was enforcement of those laws, I don't know how, but if there was, man, we'd have no more new shooters. We'd be denying so many people the pleasure of shooting.
Yeah.
And so I think that sucks. On the other side of it, I've met so many just reckless and irresponsible people shooting. It's insane. Just last week or the week before, I had someone at my house just doing some just checking for like termites, and when he left, he was like, "Did you used to work at the gun shop?" I was like, "Yeah, I left like 7 years ago." It's like, I thought I recognized you. Like, okay then, like, all right. And so we started talking about guns and shooting, and he was telling me about like he went out with someone who would just shoot randomly, like they would just like jump out and just like lean across the bonnet and shoot, and it almost hit the mirror so many times. I've gone out with someone who, and this is sort of the only time I went out with someone who I already didn't like, but I was not going to pass up an opportunity. As soon he loaded around whilst he was in the car, jumped out. As he got out of the Land Cruiser, pulled the trigger, and it like made a small like dent in the like the window frame. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I was just like, man, I don't want to be here. Hey, like I don't want to be here.
See, that's one thing.
So
I think firearms should be introduced to, especially if you want like kids young, is because you can drill that safety discipline into them. Because it's easier to teach them and drill them when they're younger than when someone's older.
That's under the assumption that everyone who's doing that is a responsible person, though.
Yeah.
So in Queensland, I think most states, to get your driver's license, you need to do 100 hours of supervised driving, right? There's still fuckwits on the road, though. Like
I know. I drive trucks every day.
Yeah. So you're probably one of them. Yeah. So like that sounds nice. But overall, I think most people do the right thing. For sure. So like I am of two minds of it. Like on one side being like there's so many great introductions. And then when you start them young and with the right teacher, they get a respect of the firearm. But then on the other side, I'm like, are these guys going to be teaching people? Because I really hope not. Hey.
Yeah.
I think overall, it's a good thing. Otherwise, there'd be so many more deaths, right?
100%. So, more injuries, more deaths.
I know that's like a long-winded answer, but I can't not be broad. Like I can't. Like I have to sort of, be reasonable.
It's a podcast, long-winded answers of what it's all about, man. If I if I asked you a question and you just went this and left it at that, it would be boring as fuck. So going down,
you do have a point there.
Going down,
it's very pedantic, and because like it was my job for 3 years.
Yeah,
I had 5 gun licenses. One of them was my instructor license, which I was doing every single week, like doing safety courses. So like I've seen a lot of. Safety's just like, it was my job.
So going from top beginner tips, we've dragged that out a long way.
We did.
What would be
we'll do that in short. Get a 22.
Yeah, perfect. I definitely agree with you on that aspect. Top 5 items for a beginner. getting into shooting? We'll just won't say hunting. We'll just say shooting in general.
We can talk about hunting as well, and I've been thinking about this because I knew like you're gonna ask it. Everyone has said binoculars, everyone said good shoes and all that. So like listen to the previous 20 podcasts and get a good pair of binoculars and get a good pair of shoes. I would say get clothes that are like rugged. Don't be put off by don't be thinking that you need to get hunting clothes. I've been going out bush a fair bit lately, not for hunting, just for other purposes. And I've been just trying like non-bush clothes just because, when I was getting like proper into hunting, like you go into some of these hunting stores and you see camo for like $300 pair of pants. And you're like, do I need a $300 pair of pants? And look, no, you don't. Especially if you're doing day hunts, you can get away with jeans. I assure you can get away with jeans. I'm currently going out bush in a hard yakka shirt with the like air holes because it's good. So I would say just the top thing that you need is clothing that you can afford. Don't be put off by needing hunting clothes, and make sure it protects you from the sun. Okay. I really want to stress the point. You don't need the expensive clothes. Just buy clothes that protect you from the sun.
Yep. Comfortable, sun protective, breathable, I'd say, depending on what climate you're hunting. You do make a good point. I've hunted goats in purple board shorts and a pink singlet.
Yeah.
It's possible. Camo does break up and give you more of a benefit than just having a solid color. Jeans, depending on what you're hunting, deer tend to see in UV, so blue jeans, you're going to look like a strobe light to them from the waist down. But yeah, just rugged, comfortable clothing.
Rugged, comfy clothes is all that's sort of necessary when it comes to clothing. One of my friends, he hunts in his tradie gear. And just clothing that protects you from the sun, and it can be anything. What you have, just get out there. You also would need I'd say a backpack with a hip strap. I think that's important. What's it called? Is it called the hip strap?
Yeah,
belt.
The hip belt. Yeah,
waist strap. And the reason for that is if you are walking around, it's going to swoosh around, and you're going to have a bad time if you don't have that support. It's going to suck.
Yeah, you put majority of the weight on your hips, and the shoulders are just holding it in place. They're not actually taking any weight.
Yep. So that's pretty important. I'd also say for the nighttime, the Australian bush gets damn cold. Like, it gets cold at nighttime, even in summer. So cold for a Queenslander is anything under 15 degrees.
I was going to say
Celsius.
Anything under 30 degrees Celsius, eh?
Oh, mate, I'm rugged up when it's 19. I'm like, bro, if it's under 20, hey, it's cold.
You look like you're in snow gear and it's 15 degrees over there.
Yeah. But it gets super cold at nighttime. And this is where a separate change of clothes from your hunting clothes is important, because you don't want to be cold and just like not sleep. So I say this, I'm fully serious, bring your trackies and bring your Uggs. Okay? Because you want to be warm at nighttime.
You would be the guy that's spotlighting in Uggs.
I have pictures of me spotlighting in Uggs.
I bet
you've seen my photos of me out on the farm hunting in Uggs. So
I bet you wearing a hoodie around the house too, don't you?
A hoodie around.
Not a hoodie.
I'm only wearing a hoodie.
The hoodies, those big oversized.
I was looking at them the other day, but nah, I would, but they're a bit too expensive for me, and I'm cheap. So
you're a uni
so
student.
you want
It's okay.
That's right. So you want something that keeps you comfy. So again, listen to all the other podcasts for the other things, but this as well. You want to be warm at nighttime. And I've gone out with people who didn't realize it's actually cold at nighttime. Because I mean it's hot during the day, so it's like why is it cold during the night? It's like it just is. So yeah, bring your trackies, bring your hoodie, bring your Uggs. Just be nice and warm at nighttime. It just makes the experience more pleasant. And if you have a pleasant experience, you're going to come back and do it again.
Yeah, I get laughed at when I go out spotlighting because I'm wearing all my camos. And because I've got my camos there, nice warm pants, nice warm shirt, nice warm jumper. And everyone's like, why are you wearing your camos out hunting? The camouflage doesn't help you when you're spotlighting from a car. It's like, no, but it's my hunting gear. It's the stuff that I'm happy with getting covered in blood. It's warm. Yeah. That's why I wear it. So
I the second last time I went out with my cousin, we were going spotlighting on the quads, and he has his bathrobe and Uggs. It's fantastic, because it's like a nice like he's got clothes on as well, but it's like
I'm sure
the point I'm trying to make is like, look, you don't have to spend a lot of money to be comfy. So then that's 1, 2, 3. 4 would maybe like you have to bring your rifle, obviously. You have to bring ammunition. You have to have all that. I would say a watch, because it is insane how fast time passes when you're not checking your phone every 5 minutes.
Yeah.
When you're not on Instagram. I'm on Instagram all day because I'm talking to my business partner. I'm talking to you or whatnot. So I'm on Instagram all day, and time passes slowly. But when you're at bush, time, like when you're not looking at your clock, time passes weird. And so if you have a general idea of how long you've been out, it's a good thing to kind of check on. And because when you've got a watch on, you're not checking your phone. So you can be more in the experience and in the moment. And that's really important.
No, I like that answer. I like that answer a lot. I love a good Garmin watch, bit multifunctional.
I have the most basic. I have a Casio F91W, which has not changed since like the 80s. I have this watch. I have an analog watch, and they're like all I have. I don't like smartwatches.
Yeah, no, I love my Garmin. Tells you your steps, your heart rate, the distance you've walked. So it gives you a pretty accurate. There's sometimes you hear someone, oh, we walked 15 Ks today, and it's like, I doubt you did.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Like if I'm on a farm, it's like I need to get to that paddock regardless of how far it is. Like it doesn't matter. But I know I need to be back by a certain time because,
exactly,
like sundown or whatever. So yeah, a watch, and yeah, even though Zach's wearing like a nice smartwatch, honestly, just have this is $20. Casio F91W. The batteries never need to be changed because it's literally like an LCD screen, and that's it. And it lasts forever. And like, if you scratch it, who cares? Like, if you broke your Garmin watch, would you be sad?
Oh, 100%.
If this breaks, I'd be like, okay, I'll just dig into the bucket and get another one.
Yeah, but you're a cheap uni student. That's understandable.
Yeah. And so, like, number one, bring a friend. Bring a camera if you don't have any friends. But bring a friend, like bring something to remember things by. Something I'm starting to regret because of you is not taking more photos. So I've never taken a trophy photo in my life. I've never taken a grip and grin. I've never done any of that. And Zach hounds me like at least once a fortnight. It's like, oh, prove that you've gone hunting. I'm like, I've got photos of me being on a property. I've got photos of me like doing other things, like holding a rifle even.
That's bushwalking
and like
with a
I'm
rifle.
Clearly not in suburbia.
It doesn't count.
And he's like, nah, that doesn't count. But like, and I do take photos when I'm out bush. I take photos of like the stars and stuff because I find that to be really cool when you're away from the city lights. But yeah, take a friend, bring a camera, and record the things that you're doing. I think the next few hunts I'm gonna do like vlog style stuff, even if it's just for me. And I'll send it to you because you're a dick.
Because I'm a vlog.
And you'll want to see it. But yeah, like there's times I'm like, what did I do on that hunt? Like I've got nothing to remember it by, except like friends who I don't talk to anymore because like they're old workmates or whatever who've moved on. Yeah, I've got like nothing. I've got nothing to remember it by because I've got like no photos.
Yeah. That's what I like.
And I've got no friends.
That's what I like about the photos. It's just a constant reminder of what happens, and it kind of takes you back to where you were at the time.
Yeah, for sure.
So
we've got comfy clothes that you can walk around in that do not have to be expensive. Got a backpack that's not going to break your back. We've got trackies and Uggs for the nighttime. We've got a nice watch, and we've got a camera and or a friend.
Perfect. Zombie apocalypse weapon.
Yeah, look, shotgun. Easy. Just fucking. I shouldn't swear because this is going out to kids and stuff, but just kill the zombies. Shoot them in the face.
Straight ball, under and over.
Well, I've seen probably more what happens. Yeah, just
lever action. What are you going?
Working at the gun shop, I've seen too many lever actions come back for warranty issues. There's no warranty in a zombie apocalypse, so just a break action shotgun. It lasts forever. I don't even know when I last cleaned my shotgun, honestly. Like, it just works. And I live next to the ocean, and it's not rusted, so like it must be okay. So shotgun, easy done, boom.
What have you forgotten on a hunting trip?
I have forgotten a magazine, and that was probably the worst thing I've forgotten. For my Tika. Well, actually, I've forgotten a magazine on the way back, on the way there, and on a separate hunt, I forgot my favorite hunting knife on the property.
Oh no!
Yeah, my Benchmade. I don't know how to pronounce like the model name, but it's like a $300 knife.
Oh no!
Yeah, but yeah, getting to the property and not have my magazine, I'm like, oh yeah, fucking here we go. Single shots only, lads.
Speaking of that, quickly, what's the travel requirements when you're going from home to a property or home to the range? Can you travel with a bolt in, or do you have to travel with a bolt out in Queensland?
So the law is it has to be temporarily inoperable. So the easiest way to make something temporarily inoperable, like a bolt action rifle, to make it temporarily inoperable, is just to take the bolt out. So generally, this is probably the only time I'll say like a law generally is just take the bolt out when you're traveling, because it's just easier, and it makes it easier if you get pulled up for the police, because they only know the general laws, and most of those who I've talked to only know take the bolt out. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
that's sort of just like what they know. Take the bolt out, and if you have the bolt in, it's like, yeah, technically I'm correct, officer. Like, but you're gonna have to sit there and look up the legislation, or if they're a dick, you're gonna have to go to court.
Yeah.
So, make the vehicle temporarily inoperable.
The firearm,
and just take the bolt out. Make the firearm temporarily inoperable, and do that by taking the bolt out. Otherwise, you can have a trigger lock on the firearm. So that's a lock that goes over the trigger guard, and it's locked by keys. It's like a clamp on either side. You can have a cable lock. So a cable lock for a rifle will go through the action and through the magazine well. And that way, even if the bolt's in it, you can't close it. But the thing is, like, if you're doing that way, then the bolt's just like slopping about. So
that's horrible.
Like, you don't want to do that anyway. Yeah. No. So just take the bolt out and put it in a separate container or whatever. It just makes your life easier if you get pulled up by the police. But
and just to make that clear, this is Queensland specific we're talking.
This is Queensland specific. And that's Queensland Weapons Regulations Section 96.
Nerd.
I've got my PowerPoint up because you started asking these questions. I was like, all right, I'm gonna be specific.
What's the sketchiest thing that's happened when you've been out on a hunt?
So, you know how in a relationship, communication is key?
Yep.
Well, farmers fucking suck at communication. And so I've been on a property, which I was cleared for. I know the property owner. We teed it up. It's like, hey, I'm going on this property this time. He's like, yep. And it turns out there's other people on the property as well. And when you're dealing with thousands of acres, well, sometimes you come across them. And sometimes it's like, you don't know they're fine. They don't know you're fine. And yeah, I've had like pot shots taken at me.
Jesus. Not
like
what you
there
want.
weren't like specific shots at me or anything, but they're just like in the direction of where we are and stuff. And it's like, oh yeah, here we go. Like that's not good.
Not what you want.
Yeah, it's not fun. It's unpleasant.
What's the most important item you take out with you when you're out hunting?
First aid kit for sure.
Perfect.
Have never had to use it, and I hope I never do have to, but for sure. And I've got, because of my security work, I've got like current first aid certs and whatnot.
Yeah.
So first aid kit, the most important thing you can have.
Yeah, I have one in my pack. I've got about 2 or 3 in my car constantly.
Yeah.
One in my camper trailer. And I use mine all the time. Tweezers to get splinters out.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
The little splinter digger out, pick things. Stingo, burn cream.
Oh yeah.
All of that.
Yeah,
stuff.
That's important.
So
I
find
for sure
the amount of people that I've chatted to that don't carry a first aid kit blows my mind. On top of that, an EPIRB is something else I find pretty important to take out.
I should take one of those, but when I'm always on farms, so I have the UHF, and if something happens, I'm like, oh, you guys, can you get the flying doctors out or something? But I'll go one up actually. I'll go one up. If you're in southeast Queensland, if you're hunting from North Queensland to central New South Wales, in bushland, bring waxing strips with you.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because of a plant called Gympie Gympie. So this plant, Gympie Gympie, is like a stinging nettle, so kind of like poison ivy kind of deal, except it is known as the world's most painful plant. It's got heart-shaped leaves, and on these heart-shaped leaves are thousands of tiny little silicon needles. And they have a neurotoxin in them because this is Australia. Of course, it has toxins in it. When they enter your skin, if you rub it, it goes deeper into your skin and your skin folds over it. And so the toxin from this plant, it's made people kill themselves before because it's so painful. Horses are known to just run until they die if they rub against it. To get rid of this plant, it's a native plant, but I guess you can get rid of it. You have to have like a full hazmat suit and you have to burn it, because if you cut it and it gets like in the wind, these needles spread, which means you can inhale them. I've brushed up against this plant when I'm out hunting, when I was crawling under Lantana, and it brushed up against my forearm, and that was unpleasant. I poured water on it straight away, and I called on my girlfriend at the time. I'm like, hey, I'm coming home. I need you to go to Woolworths and buy some waxing strips. Don't ask questions, just go and do it. And I sped home. It's 2.5 hours, and yeah, we waxed my arm. So I got most of it out, and that's like the Queensland Ambulance Service. That's the technique they use to treat this. They use waxing strips. And yeah, I felt that pain for months, and it felt like I was getting a tattoo by a tattoo gun that was on fire.
That's nuts.
It was so painful. So yeah, if you're hunting from Queensland down to central New South Wales, bring waxing strips and your first aid kit. Because if you accidentally brush up against this plant, oh my God, it is so painful. It's known as the world's most painful plant as well. Like, it's like literally known as that.
Crazy, I haven't heard of it. I'm gonna have to look into that one.
It's not in South Australia.
Thank God.
Oh yeah, it sucks.
How do you see the public views on hunting?
This is a fantastic question, because we've talked about this a couple of times. You've had a very bad experience with hunting, with people knowing that you hunt.
Interesting.
You've had a... Sure. I go to university, and the meme about universities is that it's all progressives and lefties and the anti-gun and anti-hunting and stuff. But I've met one person who was sort of against what I do. I've had overwhelming interest, if not support, for hunting and shooting from uni students. Like they haven't had agricultural backgrounds, as we talked about before. They haven't had hunting experience or anything. But and it's like, I'm not that great looking. So it's not just like girls being like just wanting to latch on and, you know, fake interest to sort of like hit on me or anything.
It's mainly guys.
Like, no, it's mainly girls, but it's not for that reason. A few guys have been like into it. One of my best mates who I've met at university is vegan, and he is pro hunting because of the conservation purposes and whatnot. So when you guys talk about like you come across all these antis and stuff, like I'm in the most progressive and like what people like would say is left wing place you can be in, institution they can be in, and there's this overwhelming support of hunting and whatnot.
But you're also in Queensland too, so it's not very really a progressive state. If you're in university in Melbourne or Adelaide or Sydney, I could see it being a different.
That is a good point. I would say the problems come from these institutions, like media.
Yeah.
And that's negative. And that's negative for views. That's negative to cause controversy because that's what gets them money, and maybe some conspiracy angle behind that as well. Maybe. I will not commit suicide. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe there's a conspiracy as to why they're all anti-hunting and stuff, but like it's for money. It's just media wants to stir up controversy, so they pull out these hit pieces against hunting and against shooting. But like overall, actually, now I think about it, I've worked in tech areas before, and like half the guys have at least gone rabbit shooting, and this is like inner Brisbane.
That's great.
Like high rise inner Brisbane, and they're like, yeah, I used to go like rabbit shooting and stuff, and you're like, you're wearing a suit and you've gone rabbit shooting, like that doesn't add up.
Speaking of the controversy,
the public is.
Speaking of the controversy side of things, though, yeah. I actually screenshotted something today to bring up in this podcast.
Well, I would just say, like, I don't think, by and large, on an individual basis, there's a lot of hate for hunting, except for when the media stirs shit up.
And that's where I'm going to with this screenshot that I've taken off Facebook this afternoon.
You gonna send it to me?
Lad Bible. I've just taken a screenshot. What it is just the headline: Wildlife trophy hunter killed in South Africa after being shot execution style. Lad Bible. The hunter became the hunted, and it's the you know how you can do the love hearts and the laughing reactions on the like posts on Facebook. It's just all laughing reactions and love hearts. Like, that's a perfect example of hunters being demonized by social media and avenues like Lad Bible.
That's atrocious and morbid. And those people who,
But this is, thousands of likes, love hearts, and laughing reactions that quote unquote trophy hunter has been killed. It's a strange one, that's for sure. But
that's atrocious. And that, I think that comes down to like the detachment a lot of people have from the individual who did it, and from those specific words like trophy hunter and stuff. Like I can guarantee you, if it was just like a man sort of got killed boar hunting or whatever, and it was like one of those, like their friends or something, they'll think it's atrocious.
Yeah.
Because it's just the media, very specific language to stir up shit. And that's atrocious. That's atrocious. It's disgusting.
So, how would you change public views on hunting and hunters?
Well, I don't really have the money to change the public view, but I just do what I can to present hunters and hunting positively. I don't come across too many people whose minds need to be changed, right?
Yeah.
And like I said, one of my best mates is vegan and he's pro hunter. So I don't know what you're doing wrong to come across like all of these negative people. I just do what I can to present hunting in a positive manner. I present myself well. Like, I still dress like a bogan and stuff, but like I'm not saying you have to wear nice suits and have clean, fresh shirts and all the time and whatnot. But like when you're talking about hunting, try and do it in a nice way. If you're with people who like aren't hunters and you want their minds to be changed, don't talk about how like you used your 7 pig dogs to hold down a pig or you stabbed it multiple times.
Yeah.
No. A lot of piggers will be like, oh, it only takes me 1 stab. Like, bro, listen, we don't need to lay him out and compare. I don't give a shit. Okay. I know it takes you multiple times. Okay. I've been there.
It happens.
It takes multiple shots sometimes. It takes multiple arrows sometimes. Don't tell them that part.
Yeah.
Well, at least don't glorify it. Don't glorify the kill.
Exactly. And that's probably why...
Do talk about the benefits as well.
That's probably why I've ran into more hate than you, because I post quote-unquote trophy photos.
Yeah.
Grip and grins. You don't. So, and all of my profiles are public, so, me posting them up, just takes one avenue to go down and start sharing it, and those quote-unquote trophy photos blow up, and especially when it comes to fun things like cats.
Yeah.
They blow up.
Yeah, I don't talk to people online though, and I'm more talking about in person.
Yeah.
I've stood in front of a classroom of uni students and talked about the benefits of hunting. I used your photos from when I asked you for all the deer photos and stuff. Like, I stood in front of a classroom of uni students talking about deer in Australia, and ended it with there was a picture of looking down a scope onto a deer, which I'm pretty sure is yours as well. And I talked about the benefits of people shooting deer.
Yeah.
And that was received positively.
Yeah, look, so in person...
So I think people just don't like you.
Yeah, there's that too. I've always been disliked because I speak my mind. Uh, um, but in person, I haven't ran into it as much because it's easier to chat to someone civilly rather than being online, and you can post whatever you want without that person being right in front of your face.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And I mean, like, yeah, someone will say anything. They'll threaten you online. They'll say they'll bash you online. It's like in person, like, okay,
Yep, I've seen it all. I've
it's
been
like you can be angry at me or you can just talk.
exactly.
Like, hey, why do you really want to try and go after someone who, like, you call me a killer, but you want to attack me in person?
Yep.
Like, that doesn't add up. Bro. Let's just have a conversation. So, and online, it's yeah, online's not reality. I'm mostly talking about in person, people
yeah.
that's the real conversation, and they're real people.
And that's exactly what I was saying. Like online, it's a completely different reality. But I reckon if you went down to some of these more liberal cities in Australia, Adelaide, Melbourne, Sydney, and just went through like the main shopping centre and asked people's views on hunting, I reckon it would be like hunting feral animals for pest control and food. Yep, no worries. Quote unquote trophy hunting for lions and elephants and all of that, it would be a very strong no. So going off of that,
I think you're right. Yeah,
what is hunting to you?
hunting to me depends on where we are. If I was in the US, hunting to me would be about food. It would be about more tradition, and there is a conservation aspect of that with the Robertson Pittman Act and whatnot.
Pittman
But
Robertson.
yeah, and I was thinking about it lately, but here in Australia, hunting to me is a means of completing a task, and generally for Queensland, that's helping out a farmer. In other areas, it's New South Wales is public land. It's helping out the environment, also farmers because they're hunting on farms there as well. But yeah, it's hunting to me is a means to complete a task. A very fun means.
Yeah.
But it boils down to a means.
That's a very different answer compared to what we've had in the past, and it's a great answer nonetheless. So
correct.
So social media, where can people find you?
Well, first off, we have the Firearm Owners United social media, which we're trying to help out shooters and by extension hunters. We've got Eureka Tactical, which we haven't really talked about, which I think it's Eureka.Tactical. We're mostly on Instagram. I should find out what it is. No, it's just one word. Eureka Tactical. One word. We are on Facebook as well, but mostly on Instagram. And my personal account is Daniel.Kuhl, KUHL01. And on that, I really don't post hunting or anything. It's just like photos of animals that I find. Some rare and endangered animals, but it's just like animals and my dog.
Hey, most hunters like animals, so it's a good follow. Eureka Tactical, great follow, great gear. Give us a quick, brief rundown on what type of gear you have.
So it's mostly merchandise type stuff that presents a message. So your hunter-gatherer shirt that you're wearing now, it's mostly sort of like shirts that have a message like hunting equals conservation. Suppressors, got those shirts and whatnot, and I find them to be quite fun and good like conversation starters and whatnot. And then we've just got a little bit of hunting gear as well, like night vision, some knives, and a little bit of clothing, like hunting clothing and whatnot. as well.
Sleeping bags, some
Yeah,
packs too.
a couple of sleeping bags, some backpacks, but that's sort of like a side thing. I mostly focus on, because there's two people who run Eureka Tactical. I'm more focused on trying to just spread the hunting message with the shirts, and we bring in an article every month about why we hunt with different people.
And where can they find that article?
So they'll be on our website, which is EurekaTactical.com. .au. So no, this is EurekaTactical.com. I always think it's .au, but it's just .com. And we've got like a section there which is just articles. And yeah, we do once a month. We just contact 3 different people who go hunting, ask them about their story, and just publish that, because we want, like, I want to know everyone's story, like why they hunt.
Exactly.
And I find it fascinating because it's usually very different to me, and it's sometimes different to you, and everyone's just got like a different reason.
And it's very similar reason why I've started this podcast. You and the other owner of Eureka Tactical and Eureka Tactical itself have been great supporters in what I do. So one of the main reasons I've got you on here, because you've been very, very supportive from day one, even before the first episode was out. We had lengthy discussions about what I should go into and how I should go about stuff, and if I come up with a new idea or want to work out how to ask something, I always seem to go to you first, because you have a very different opinion majority of the time than I do. So.
Well, I mean, like, the community is just going to support each other, right?
100%.
Like a rising tide lifts all the ships.
Yeah,
I think that's the expression. So yeah, it's nice just to support everyone in this space. So we'll definitely always support this podcast, and
I appreciate it, man,
and all the supporters of this podcast as well.
Awesome. So if you want to get some sick merch, head over to ET and get yourself a Hunter Gatherer shirt. And I think there's, what is there, two designs of the Hunter Gatherer shirt?
Yes, 2 designs. One, a guy shooting, and it's got he's got a dog with him as well, and a bow hunting one as well. There's another one that we want to come out with, but I'm just waiting on someone to help me out with that, because it's very difficult to do by myself.
Yeah.
But those are the 2 that we're doing now, and yeah, I like them.
You have some cool designs, and that's for sure. There's the Eat Venison design too, which is pretty cool.
Hunt deer, eat venison.
That's the one.
I love.
Yeah.
That was only going to be temporary. That was only going to be for a couple months this year. But when I got like the sample, I was like, oh, I like this. I love it.
I need to get a couple. Like I said to you before, I think you need to do them ones in hoodies too. But yeah, head over, get yourself some sick merch. Head over, follow ET, Eureka Tactical. While you're at it, find Firearms Owners United and see the awesome work that Dan does behind the scenes and everybody else.
Team effort.
It's a team effort, but you do some brilliant work too, man. And give Dan a follow while you're at it. So thank you for coming on, man. Thanks for chatting. It's almost been 2 hours. Doesn't seem like that, but it goes bloody fast.
It does go fast, and it's good. I was just thinking about today, something you said. It'd be good for people to know that Eureka Tactical is actually run by people who go hunting and go shooting.
Yeah.
And it's not just like a random company that's just popped up.
You see a few of them pop up on Instagram, that's for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm very glad that we did this.
Nah, so am I, man. Thank you very much for coming.
Definitely.
Anyway, guys, thank you for listening to another episode of the Hunting Connection podcast. Head over to our Instagram, Hunting Connection Podcast, Facebook, Hunting Connection Podcast, Twitter, @Hunting Connect. If you've enjoyed the episode, please share with your friends, your family, share on social media, tag us in when you're listening, tag us in your hunting, fishing, outdoor adventure photos and videos, so that way I can give them a share and see what you guys are up to. And it also helps my page grow and the podcast grow. If you're not subscribed, give us a subscribe on whatever podcast app you're listening on. Give us a rate. 5-star would be great, but if you're not enjoying it, give us a 1-star and tell me why, so I can work on that. I'd love to hear all your reviews, positive and negative. So yeah, just all of that helps the podcast grow, and thank you all for listening.